riding through a beautiful countryside on your motorbike that you've put your blood, sweat and tears into finding fuel for, upgrading and repairing, only for you to be shot by a sniper ambush, attacked by a pack of wolves and zombie-like freakers all at the same time, is the best way that I can describe Days Gone. Now, before the game was even released, it looked like a mismatch between The Last of Us, Dying Light, Horizon Zero Dawn and Far Cry. This looked and sounded like a great proposition, and with Sony's latest track record on groundbreaking exclusives, everything was on track for a great time. Playing as Deacon St. John, a biker in the northwest of America, trying to survive with his best mate Boozer. You're also trying to get over the death of your wife Sarah when the outbreak started. Even during the first cutscene though, the problems start, with Sarah's death just not making sense. How she dies does, but the attack itself just seems outright stupid, and if anything, even seems lazy on the writer's side. Throughout the game, most of the story progression doesn't seem warranted, and it sometimes, again, doesn't really make sense except to make you do more. One of the central storylines involves investigating what the National Response Organization, or NERO, is doing as they investigate the freaker outbreak. At first this seems great because it's a very different mission to the rest of the game, but these are instant failed stealth missions which give you very uninteresting lore. Oh, and the people of Nero are wearing magically weapon resistant hazmat suits because reasons. The rest of the missions are either fetch quests or simple go to point A, kill everything and return to point B. Thankfully, the combat feels mostly fine, with the gunplay feeling quite similar to Uncharted and The Last of Us, with a focus mode added in to slow time and make you more accurate. There's also plenty of guns and a crossbow to try out, so there is plenty of variety. This being a survival horror game though means that running out of bullets during some of these missions is entirely possible and even likely, so it's a good job that melee combat feels nice for the most part. It's weighty and most of the time you feel the impact of smashing a freaker or a human in the face with a nail-spiked baseball bat, which is great. This still isn't perfect though, as many of the times the killing blow doesn't seem to register the correct animation during my playthrough, with an enemy just falling over rather than being impaled, which is very off-putting and takes you out of the game every single time, which is often. Any of these problems, however, are not present when fighting the larger boss-like enemies. These range from fighting a bear early on in the game to fighting one of the hordes of freakers later on. These encounters are intense and force you to use the environment, such as explosive tanks and barrels, to your advantage to whittle down their health bar. This means you need to keep moving and think on your feet so that you don't run out of stamina at the worst possible time or run out of Molotovs or bullets. Other fights are much easier, with all the enemies outside of missions going down to a couple of bullets or weapon swings, and human enemies always being spread out enough not to be much of an issue at all. Sometimes you can't stand and fight and need to run away, and this brings us to Days Gone's two shining lights: the beautiful world Sony Bend have created and your bike. The world is populated with plenty of variety and is quite dense. There's also a weather system which changes the world a lot. During a rainstorm, your bike will handle very differently, meaning you'll have to think about how you ride even more. There's also a day-night cycle, which changes the world as well, with freakers being more nocturnal and active during the night and nesting during the day. This means taking out nests is more difficult during the day because more will come out of the nest when you burn it down, but there will be less inhabited nests to pick off at night. No matter the weather or time of day though, your bike feels great to ride, and it feels weighty around corners, but you can handbrake around sharp bends, which is incredibly fun and satisfying. The bike is quite slow however, which doesn't give much sense of speed, but it does tie into the biker persona of Deacon. The main problem however is the systems around the bike. You can upgrade it to look better, make it more durable and use less fuel, but they don't do much at all. Fuel runs out quite quickly, to the point where it becomes a chore to go find fuel all the time, and dragging your bike when it's run dry is just plain boring. You'll also have to find scrap around the world, especially in the many cars dotted around everywhere, because you have to repair your bike constantly as it doesn't take much to break it at all. This can also become a chore and can make your bike feel more like an annoyance than your great companion on this journey. I'm sure you can see the pattern here. For every good or even great thing Days Gone does, it does as much, if not more, badly. This is also where we get to the biggest problem with the game, and that's something that is inexcusable with it being a Sony first-party title: the technical issues. I played the game on a PS4 Pro and had quite a few frame rate drops, not just when there was a lot of things happening on screen, but at just random times riding through or walking through the world. There was also times a checkpoint wouldn't activate a cutscene to move the story forward, so I had to reload and redo whole missions at a time, and the game also crashed a couple of times. This, however, isn't the worst of it. Before every cutscene, there's a loading screen that can take up to 20 seconds to load. This also happens every time you die, and even during cutscenes to load in a next part. With the studio having access to Sony's resources and most likely having the ability to get help from the likes of Naughty Dog and Sony Santa Monica, this is a real shame. Overall, however, there is a lot of fun to be played here, and technical issues aside, there is some incredibly tense and outright fantastic moments during its 30+ hour story. It's a shame the story doesn't live up to the action, but it's still worth playing, especially if they sort out the technical issues with some patches in the future. If you enjoyed this review, please hit the like button, leave a comment and subscribe to help this channel grow. I'm Jack and this has been Games to You.